experiential learners, but let's say that those statistics are like, it's kind of in the ballpark. It kind of matches the way Jesus, like he did some formal teaching, but it wasn't the majority of how he spent his time. He did a lot of coaching and mentoring and a lot of experiential learning, where they went and did things together and they experienced things, and he sent them and they experienced things. See, he had 10% teaching, 20% coaching and mentoring, 70% experience. Well, that has implications for us as we think about how to develop students to be followers of Christ, doesn't it? Yet a lot of times activities of the church tend to be kind of flipped around, where it's like, lots of teaching and planned activities, but not as much like just living life experientially, relationally. And yet Jesus's was predominantly experientially, relationally. Right? Is that, and so when you think about that, and you think about working with students, so now, like, let's get to the real practical level. Let's think about working with students, middle school students, high school students, and thinking about the way that Jesus developed disciples. What does that say to you? What encouragement? What do you sense that you think, well, what might I want to be making sure that I'm doing with my students?
Well, he was also challenging them.
Yep.
Not just teaching, but calling them to action.
It's great. Yep. Calling them to action, challenging them. Good. What else?
Serving others.
Yeah, so getting involved, serving others. Yep. Like with them, doing it together. Yep. So in a real practical way. Great. What else?
Like being integrated into their life, like going to their school activities. To your house. Parents.
Yeah, going to their activities, having them over to the house. Here's a great thing. Like it doesn't take any more time, or like you're going to do something, bring them along. If you can bring people along with the stuff that you're already doing, where you're living your life, and then they're able to sort of see how your life is being lived. This goes a little beyond that. One of the things we've often done, we often have people living with us. When I was first graduated from college, I lived with the guy who was the Young Life. I was on Young Life staff. He was the Young Life director, and part of the reason was I was poor. That was part of the reason I lived there. But I tell you, it was so great just to see that the way that he raised his kids. My parents were great, but they interacted with us differently than he interacted with his kids. He was such a great model for me. Like just having people in your home. And being around, seeing, having them with your friends and doing the things that you do, it's so great just to be able to see them model and just see, for you to be able to model for them. Yeah, what else?
Yeah, I think the whole modeling and example, like being an example is really effective. Like a couple of weeks ago in Young Life, actually.
Yep.
I looked at Acts 2, 42 through the end.
Yep.
It's about, it was after Peter had basically started the first church. And it just talks about, like, they sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. They were together all the time. They broke bread in everyone's homes. And it's just, I just see that as like the ultimate example of kind of Jesus, but through a community.
Yeah.
I think just their way, how they would, it doesn't specifically say it, but I just think that people would come to them, and just because of how tight they were together and how just they... Yeah,
and it says, and the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Like, they enjoyed being together. I remember when we first moved into our house up here in Baltimore, this is years and years ago, and we had a bunch of folks who were believers, who were our friends, helping us move in. The lady next door came over and she goes, after moving in, she goes, okay, like what's up with your friends? Like, I've never seen anybody like these people. Like, nobody was cussing. Nobody was like yelling at each other. I mean, the bar is actually pretty low you don't have to be great to be different these days, Like we weren't cussing and yelling at each other, and so it was remarkable to her, but I'll tell you what, like it it was remarkable to her, and she ended up coming to faith, and it was a big part of our life through that. She's like, man, I want to have friends like that. Like, so when people want to have. You think about, especially working with students. One of the primary thoughts that students have is to be accepted. I want to be accepted for who I am, and a lot of times, you guys could tell me a lot more than this, but this was true when I was a kid. Abraham Lincoln was the president, and it was awesome.
Before the automobile.
Exactly. We didn't have automobiles, but we rode around, on our horses and everything. It was fantastic. Yeah. Now, a lot of times you wouldn't necessarily want to drink or smoke weed or whatever, but you would do it because you felt like you had to do it to get accepted. And so people would compromise their values because what mattered really was to want to be accepted. So to have a place where kids are accepted 100% just for who they are, that's gold. And not everybody can see it. When they do see it and they taste it, they're like, man, I want that. I want to have friends that accept me exactly the way that I am. And so you think about, when you think about working with students, it does shift the paradigm a little bit, and so the ministry programs that we have in many ways ought to be like the tip of the iceberg of what's really going on. We gather together, and it's incredible. Jesus often gathered people together, and they become opportunities to have shared experiences, to build relationships. But if that's all that it is, it's limited in terms of the way that Jesus actually did ministry. He spent time with them on their turf, in their environment where they felt comfortable, took them along with him. There was a lot of ministry that took place just along the road as they walked and as they lived life. And so when we talk about incarnational ministry, that's really what we mean. We mean doing ministry the way that Jesus did. It doesn't say, for God so loved the world, he invited them to come to heaven. It doesn't say, for God so loved the world, he told them to go to church. What does it say? For God so loved the world, he what? He sent his Son to be in and among them, that the Word became flesh and lived among us so that we could see his glory of the one and only from the Father, full of grace and truth. So if we want to be like God, we need to go and be with and be among, not always come here. Now Jesus did say come and see, but he spent much more of his time going and being with. So if you think about this for a second, going back to these three spheres, here's what we know we want to produce is this. There's different ways, in a ministry context, that you could say, well, how are we being successful? How are we marking progress? How do we know if we're doing a good job or not? What are some of the ways that we might think of that now? The most obvious thing that we do usually to sort of track whether things are going well is to do what? Count, right? Count how many people come. Why do we do that?
Can't think of any other way to...
It's just the easiest thing. The easiest thing to measure is to just count how many people come, And so if 50 came, that's better than if 40 came. And it probably is, However, is our goal to have more people come to meetings? Is that our goal? No, it's not our goal. Not our goal to have more people come to meetings. What is our goal?
Change lives.
To have people live changed lives, to have people live more like Jesus, to have people fall in love with Christ and have their character be more conformed to his. That's a little harder to measure. So I'm going to actually give us a little exercise here that might help us give us some thoughts about how to do that. So think about your life and think about these three spheres. In us, among us, through us. So starting with in us, when your relationship with the Lord is firing on all cylinders, his grace is growing in you, you're doing well with the Lord. However, people might phrase it differently. Your communion with the Lord is pure. Your walk with the Lord is going well. What is becoming more true about you when that's occurring? Okay? You're doing well with the Lord, you're walking with him. What is becoming more true about you when that's happening?
loving.
Every day you're striving to be more like Christ.
A lot more than the fruit of the Spirit, in the sense, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness,
Great, keep going.
Humility.
Yeah, I've been really growing in humility lately, and I'm telling you, it's been awesome. Like just the other day, I was like being really humble, and I'm thinking, boom. Like that is some awesome humility right there. I was really proud of myself. It was fantastic. Yeah, yeah. So can we give me a round of applause here for a second? That'd be awesome. Yes. Yeah, because I'm really proud of that. It's awesome. Great. Yeah. Good. Feel free to use that anytime. Get some every time. Okay. All right. What else?
For me, it's like being a little kid again.
Yeah. Okay.
You're a little kid, you do what makes you happy, and you do things that are what you almost feel like you were naturally born to do.